everyone. County Executive Mark Heckel, John Paul Rea, Deputy Executive, just giving you an update on what's going on in the county, and that's how it relates to the COVID crisis that we're having here throughout the entire state, country, but more particular how it kind of relates to Macomb County. So numbers, boy, I tell you what, we've been very fortunate, even with the opening, getting rid of the stay-at-home order. A lot of businesses are back up and running. People are doing more things together, as I'm sure you can see when you go out and about. Yet our numbers aren't, we haven't seen a resurgence of any magnitude or proportion yet, and so I guess it means people are still at least understanding CDC guidelines. So, and kind of what are the numbers telling us right now, John?
Mark, I think the good thing is the numbers have stabilized, specifically here in Macomb County, and we look at Southeast Michigan. 7-day average for deaths is now only at 0.3 deaths per 7 days in the county. Had a batch of about 6 days where there were no recorded deaths in the county over that stretch of days over the past 10. So that was really promising information there as our healthcare folks continue to combat this with individuals that do have to become hospitalized. 7-day average as far as cases, about 16.8, definitely attributed to the fact more cases. Our capacity is actually growing not only in the county's test site, but as we've expanded a lot of those private test operations that are around the county too. And again, the 7-day average as far as percent positive, very much in that stable range, just above 3 at 3.1. But again, trends have stabilized, not only with the social adherence to those guidelines that are out there, whether they've come from the CDC or other trusted sources on that end, and it seems as if we've been able to manage that, which doesn't seem to be the case in other areas around the country. But again, that personal responsibility, those steps that we've collectively taken across the state, and as more individuals want to be part of the solution, I think we're seeing some good trends here in the county.
Yeah, not only across the country, but even closer to home. We've seen something up in the Ingham County area, I do believe, where they had a kind of occurrence with a local bar. If I'm
That's
not
correct.
mistaken. There was an issue there. So, with that being said, we know there's going to be, some challenges, and we're going to have to meet those things. But I think we are very prepared. Our emergency management is still functioning. EOC, we're still engaged, working with our hospitals, our health department, people within the community, our community partners, each one of the municipalities, and obviously trying to make sure that if there is such an occurrence, when we start to see that, we're getting on it right away. Again, credit to our health department. They've done a fantastic job of trying to make sure that we're meeting the need for people that need to be tested or want to be tested, and as well the contact tracing that they do. So we start to see something happening, we're responsive to it, we're going to deal with it, and again, we've been doing that. We're extremely fortunate. So,
Mark, that responsiveness, that adaptability, I think is key. Compared to where we were at the outset of this, with all the other variables that we've added to the equation, again, to contain these elements, whether it be something that may spike on an outbreak like they saw in Ingham County, whether it be a spike that we may see in hospitalization. I think as a system here in the county, I think we're better prepared to manage these things as they arise, as we go into different elements of rephasing in our economy, and as we start to socialize a bit more in everything. I think you start to see it, whether it's a graduation party that you see as you're going through your subdivision, whether it's something where someone goes to a service for a church or something like that. People are taking that precaution, that own personal responsibility, and it's going to help us manage this moving forward.
And John, you're exactly right. I mean, you stop and you think about it. People are trying to balance their life with this crisis, and we're trying to figure out how do we do it most appropriately. So we are seeing there's more interaction. People are trying to be somewhat, guided by CDC guidelines on how they do that. So, we can't continue. In fact, the governor did lift stay-at-home orders. So that means people are going to be out and engaging. There was this, if you will, opening of the economy in certain sectors. So, I guess the bigger concern right now is there's some sectors that haven't opened. They're concerned, because the data does put us in a phase 5. And phase 5 does allow for a lot more businesses to be open. In particular, we're hearing from the health clubs, the fitness centers, they want to open up. Even though in the north end of the state and even the UP they have, they're saying, hey, we'll follow those guidelines. We know what those guidelines are. We have them in play. So some of them are doing it. Some of them are opening. Some of their, if you will, communities, their law enforcement are just kind of, just navigating around it. They're not trying to deal with it. But they're going to do it in a very, I guess, if you will, a very careful or cautious way. So we know what's happening, and it's not just here in Macomb County, it's happening throughout the state. But again, I think it's that lack of true understanding of the guidance that's being given, and they know that they're in phase 5 and they can handle it. So we're going to continue to work with them. I guess that's the bottom line. As a county, we're going to continue to respond with our health department, emergency management, anything we see. You mentioned it when you said early on we weren't prepared. I mean, we couldn't handle the surge that was coming our way for the hospitals. We didn't have PPE. There was no stockpile. Today there is. It is much more in line with understanding how do we handle any uptick, and we're prepared to deal with it. Not to say that there isn't going to be one, because we're concerned about that happening. but we are much more prepared now than we were at the onset of the first, case we had on March 13th. So we're there. And with that, we've been very helpful with businesses that have been impacted by the closures. And, the small business grant that we had for our small businesses here in Macomb County went off pretty well, didn't it?
Mark, we've had some incredible returns with Macomb County Cares for Small Business. A few weeks ago, you had the opportunity with Vicki Rad in our planning department to announce Macomb County Cares for Small Business. The first phase with $5,000 sustainability grants to businesses in Macomb County that had below 50 individuals. We are thrilled at the fact that nearly 4,000 individuals answered the call and wanted to partner with the county on this initiative. Currently, our Planning and Economic Development Department is assessing all those individuals that came in as far as those applications. Our objective is to start notifying individuals as early as next week and get checks cut. I think it illustrates the fact that we've now really struck a chord to have that conversation with our businesses. Again, working, engaging them, understanding what their challenges are, seeing where their needs might be in the future, and we're also going to have a really exciting announcement later this week with Automation Alley too.
And those small businesses, we're talking about $20 million of the $152.5 million that we were able to get from the federal government.
Yes, sir.
For the CARES funding. And that was the first phase. We know there are going to be other phases as we move through this. Our second wave, or the next phase, which we'll make an announcement when we are prepared to, handle getting all the checks written to those small businesses that just went through this first phase. We are going to be moving into the second phase to deal with businesses that employ people 50 or greater number of people. So we'll be more specific about that, the grant amounts and how to apply as we get closer to that date. But we're not done. We've got a lot more funding opportunities available to continue to help our business, and it's not something that's going to make them whole. Many of them have lost a lot.
Yep.
Some of them we're not worried. We're worried that they may not even recover from this. Some of them may be lost as a result. But we're doing the best we can with the funding we have to try to figure out how do we deal with that.
Mark, we wanted to be adaptable with the way that we rolled out these business services, because we understand not only as businesses got over this first hump as far as just the shock to the system with a complete shutdown of the economy. I think what's happened as we started to phase back in, normalize how operations are going to go, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a manufacturer, all those different types of things are kind of coming into the thought process for how we stand up these resources to be as nimble as possible and get those direct resources to the businesses as far as the cash grants. I think the other interesting thing is, again, still have the resource guide that is available at macombgov.org, whether it's changing recommendations, whether it's things we're hearing from executive orders, whether it's new resources coming through the CDC. Our team is continually updating information on that page. And again, we still have the back to business kits as far as the PPE that we continue to roll out with our good friends here at Emergency Management. Again, a very nimble process. We want to make sure that we're always getting information, resources, critical stuff out to the businesses on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah. And you mentioned what we're going to be announcing tomorrow. We're going to have a press conference with our partners in Oakland County for Automation Alley. Dave Coulter and myself are going to be at Automation Alley announcing an initiative where we're working on some of these manufacturing companies and try to figure out how do we get them moving into the direction with this the new technology needed to be more competitive on a global scale. For jobs and opportunities. So, I think, they're a thought leader, Automation Alley.
Absolutely.
You guys mention this all the time, along with our planning department, Vicki Rad and company, where you were very much engaged in this Industry 4.0. And so with that, we want to keep them moving in that direction, get them up to date, but we need to help with the funding to support that. And so we are doing that with some of our CARES dollars, as well as Oakland County. So we'll be making a more specific announcement as to what that means. And our partner, Tom Kelly over there, is going to be leading that press conference, and you're going to get more details about that. So, but again, we are fortunate here, whether it's healthcare, automotive manufacturing, or even, defense. We are, without question, global leaders here in this region. And so Macomb County, we are number one when it comes to defense in the Midwest. And we want to figure out how do we keep ourselves in that space. And we want to be the most competitive. And that's what Automation Alley is going to help us do.
Mark, I think it's another step in not only assessing and adapting to the economic changes that we're seeing, but it's about ensuring that our businesses can be ready for that next wave, whether it's product innovation, whether it's helping service an industry that is strained, or whether it's looking at what's coming next. As far as adapting to this, they're prepared, they're ready, and this partnership that we're going to announce tomorrow, I think, is an incredibly advantageous step for everyone in our region.
And we're working not only with our corporation counsel, but we're working along with our audit firm, Plant Moran, to try to figure out how do we help out some of these nonprofits as well. And so there'll be another phase that we're going to be working on and try to figure out how do we deal with nonprofits and some of these other service-based industries on a contractual basis to help get them some of these CARES funds to help support what they've been doing over these past several months going through this crisis. So we're fortunate we have those service-based organizations out there. Macomb Community Action is heavily engaged with
Absolutely.
Ernest and his crowd. I tell you, we're extremely fortunate, but know that they're going to need some support on the funding side of this as well.
Mark, I think one of the most interesting ways that we've approached all these challenges with COVID is we wanted to assess the impact that it had the community initially, bring in the right partners at the table so that we can ensure that we were getting these resources to the most necessary spot in our community. I think we've done that not only with our initial response, but as we're heading into containment and whatever happens in the fall, I think we're there, we have the systems in place, and we're using all the great community partners that we have around the county.
And we do. And on that note, I got to tell you, it's been an incredible weekend we just got through having as far as the weather. The weather is going to be even more spectacular over the next 10 days. So get out and enjoy the weather. Get out with your family, enjoy. But again, continue to understand and monitor yourselves based upon CDC guidelines. And on behalf of myself, John Paul, and the rest of us here at the county, we want to thank you for tuning in, but also remind you to keep you and your family safe.